There we go.
Sitting on a cushion. Hello everybody, happy Christmas. We're in the festive season and we're trying to get into the spirit of things today. Hope you're all in the spirit of things and all feeling well, and you're all ready for the big day in 2 days' time. 2 more sleeps, or not if you have newborn babies. I shouldn't say that, should I? So we are the infant feeding team at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. It's Thursday again, and it's our questions and answers session. And we love your questions. It's always absolutely wonderful to have you talking about them, and people come and talk to us on the ward saying they've seen us, and we ask everybody what they want us to talk about each week. So we always have a little list of things that people have added to our repertoire so that we can talk about them. Often it's what goes around comes around, and we've talked about them lots and lots, but they haven't watched it, so they want to know. So I'm sure some of you are first timers, and hello, and others are our faithful followers, and we see lots and lots of regular faces coming up each week and waving at us, so that's fantastic. So this session is about infant feeding, so anything to do with infant feeding. So if you are giving bottles of formula, or you're giving bottles of breast milk, or you're pumping, or you're breastfeeding, or doing all of them, that's what this is for. If you're weaning, if your baby is not sleeping or is sleeping, that's what it's for. Anything else around feeding, going back to work, coping with day-to-day stuff, where to get help, all of those things, that's what we talk about on this session, and we love the questions that you put down there. And
Yes,
Alex has got her computer at the ready, so she can
Charlotte's already in touch. Hi,
Hello Charlotte, happy Christmas.
And Alicia.
And so we are very happy to talk about all of those things, but not really very happy to talk about all the visiting times and scans and labour stuff and what to pack in your bags when you come into hospital. That's for other days on these sessions, which we have, and other midwives do these sessions regularly. And so that opportunity is there for you to discuss those things, and you can also access your own midwife as you need. And if you've got any questions, you can ring your local midwife and get some support from them, or you can look on our Trust website, and that will give you a lot of information. If you're wanting to know about things like COVID and vaccinations and things like that, that's probably the best place. Is the RCOG website, the Royal College Robson Gynaecologist website, and that will give you the most up-to-date information for pregnant women and breastfeeding women. So please do look at that if you've got any questions outside of the normal government guidelines. If you want to know the health things that go on with those vaccinations or anything else in your pregnancy, that's the best place to get the most up-to-date research-based information.
I think at the moment there's a big push on encouraging women who are pregnant to have the vaccination. I think in the beginning it was very dubious, people weren't really sure, but I think the evidence is showing now that there is real benefits with having it. So if you're wavering, have a chat with your community midwife and have a chat with them about getting it organised, if you make that decision. But the research is looking like it really is well worth you doing it.
And we know that that pregnant women are very, very vulnerable, and that's certainly been in the press in the last week, promoting pregnant women and certainly breastfeeding women as well to get the vaccination if you haven't had it. But pregnancy is a real risk factor, and it's been highlighted as a huge risk factor. So please do consider it if you haven't had it. And they've just opened up the Oxford Hospital, so the Churchill Hospital is now a site for pregnant women to go to, and the information is on their website. You can access and have I think they're doing drop-in for pregnant women, so you can turn up and have a vaccine if you're pregnant at the Churchill Hospital. That's the latest advice that we've been given. So
check with your community midwives to find out when that's starting.
Started yesterday.
Okay.
Wednesday. Is that yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it is open for you to, if you're pregnant, to go and get your vaccines from there, as well as all the other places as well that you can make appointments. But they're really encouraging everybody to go forward and have a vaccination. And I hope you are all well. But if you have got any questions about COVID and breastfeeding, please do ask questions on this session, as well as asking your midwives, or you can phone us up independently if you're not sure. The guidelines and the advice has stayed the same. So if you have got COVID, we recommend that you do wear a mask while you're breastfeeding, unless your baby is trying to pull it off, in which case we feel it's safer for you to take it off so that your baby's not handling your mask. And just keep hand washing and all of the other things. If you're too poorly to breastfeed, then we recommend that you try and pump if you can. And if you are too poorly to pump, then we recommend that you try to pump as soon as you start feeling better, to get your milk supply back up. And if you get COVID beyond the first couple of weeks and you've had a good supply, the chances are you'll get that supply back if you pump again. If you've been very poorly, you might struggle. It's very hard, but hopefully you should be able to get that supply back up with lots and lots of pumping. And if you have any questions, please do call and ask if you have any worries about that. And also, if babies have got COVID or toddlers have got COVID and you've got a newborn baby in your house, then some of these little ones bringing it back from nurseries and things at the moment and passing it on to their parents, just make sure that everybody is safe, that you know what you're doing, that your baby is well, you keep breastfeeding, take lots of paracetamol, and if you've got any worries, then talk to us about it if you're concerned about your baby. But remember that if you've been vaccinated or you've had COVID yourself, then you've got antibodies in your breast milk that will pass on to your baby and protect your baby as well.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
The other benefit of having the vaccine, is that you will pass the antibodies on to your baby. If you had it when you were pregnant, then the antibodies will go through your placenta into your baby, and if you are breastfeeding and had it, then it will go through your breast milk, and the antibodies will build up and provide protection for your babies as well. So it's a win-win.
Right, should we do a couple of questions?
Yeah, why not?
Before we go on to anything else. So Charlotte said, Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year for 2022. It can only get better, surely, Charlotte. Alicia is sending you both Christmas hugs and waving at you both. We'll wave again. And she said she's getting much better at walking. She's been fabulous. We've watched her progress. It's wonderful.
We saw her crawling across the sofa. It was lovely.
Yes,
just
we
lovely.
did. Yeah, that was really lovely. Charlotte was to put about the holidays are coming. They are indeed. Anna has put, Merry Christmas and thanks for all these brilliant sessions. First child, baby girl, due February 13th. From previous videos, I'm putting uninterrupted skin to skin for 1 hour after birth in my birth plan. Thanks for this tip. What else should I think about packing my hospital bag from a breastfeeding perspective, Anna? Well, that's fantastic that your skin to skin is going to be the top thing on there, and it's the uninterrupted skin to skin. What else do you need? A feeding bra, maybe?
Yeah.
So, think about getting a feeding bra. Just because it's easy for access. There's nothing more to them than they open, so that makes it just a bit easier.
And I think about 36 weeks you get your bra fitted.
Yeah.
Just have a look at the size. You might find that your breast will be about the same size as after about 2 weeks when you've been breastfeeding. So that it sort of goes down. Once your milk comes in, your breasts soften a little bit after you've had the first flush of your milk coming in, and so your breasts at 36 weeks will be about the same size as they are when you've got your milk in and settled down a little bit. So that's when we suggest that you have your bras fitted, or you get a size that's bigger than you're probably on at the moment. So they might seem a bit big, but that will help. So that sort of thing.
Yeah, and don't panic when your milk comes in. Think, oh dear, I didn't buy the big enough bras, because that engorgement that you get when your milk comes in, all that filling of the breast, that is short-lived. It will pass. You will go down a bit.
I think nightwear. If you've got nightwear, make it so that you can open it and breastfeed easily.
I know what I have on that as well. Thinking about making sure your bra is off before the baby is born.
Yeah, good.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in the delivery suite when I was delivery suite midwife, and you're trying to negotiate getting a baby skin to skin and help them feed, and the mother's bra is up here.
Or you've got drips and things.
Yes, because you can't take it off because maybe you're on a drip. So making sure you've got your bra off during the labour would be a really good idea. And don't have a bra on.
It's much more comfortable in labour not to have a bra on if you've got a loose t-shirt or something, and then you take that off when you've had your baby.
Yeah. So we've done a couple of things, haven't we?
You probably won't need breast pads, but you might want to bring a few in.
Yeah.
you might want to get some nipple cream, some sort of pure nipple cream, so pure lanolin or something like that, but nothing expensive or fancy. It's good basic stuff. I think that's about it really.
Yeah,
New for
I think
breastfeeding.
so. Yeah.
See, we can't even think what you might need,
No,
but I
you
think
don't really. You really just need
you're not here for very
something to
long.
hold your baby in close. So no, you don't need much, because you're not here for very long at all. So I think that's it really. I think the skin to skin's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It makes a really big difference. If for any reason you can't have that uninterrupted, immediate skin to skin contact, you just make up for it when you can.
As soon as you
Because
can.
it is one of these, we don't know what's going to happen, and on occasions babies have to go to special care baby unit, or they might need a bit of help getting breathing going, or you might have to go to theatre. So from that point of view, we can't guarantee it, but we will always work towards uninterrupted skin to skin contact. So that's a brilliant thing to have down there as your first thing.
And if you've been doing some harvesting, so you've been expressing when you're pregnant of colostrum, don't bring too much colostrum in. Have some, but don't bring it all in. And remember that when you come in labour, if you're able to, do some expressing when you're in labour, or if you're waiting for a cesarean, do some while you're waiting, so that you can have a freshly squeezed supply of colostrum. Which will last on the side for 24 hours. So you know that it's going to be okay. It doesn't need to be frozen, doesn't need to be in a fridge. You can keep it on the side for 24 hours, and then your partner can bring in some more colostrum if they need it once you've had your baby, and then it's there for you to give. But obviously it doesn't last so long if you've had it frozen and it defrosts. It doesn't last for so long. Is it an hour when it defrosts?
No, 12 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours once defrosted. Yeah.
Breast milk, isn't it? Or 6 hours in the fridge, but you want to make sure that you don't lose it. And what's been happening is people are bringing colostrum in, and it's defrosted whilst you're in labour, and then it's no longer viable.
Yeah.
And it ends up you're not able to give it to your baby, or you leave it somewhere and you can't remember where you left it when you come into hospital.
And keep it with you at all times.
It becomes separated from you for one reason or another, and then that's awful when you've worked so hard to express it. So, bring it in later, unless you know that you're going to have your baby within the next sort of few hours. Then, and you can't really predict that mostly. Then don't bring it with you, but bring it in just afterwards if you can.
Right, I hope that helped. Anyway, a few hints and tips for you there, Anna. We'll be here again before February, so you can ask us more questions.
You can ask us while you're here as well if you need to.
Jessica said, can hypothyroidism cause me not to produce enough milk? It's certainly something that we do link to lower milk production for some women. We like to know about women who are hypothyroid in advance so that we can put a plan in place to really maximise your milk supply. Because as we've said on these sessions many a time before, your milk supply is driven by milk removal, and those early days have a really big impact. So, making sure that you're really proactive right from the beginning will make a really big difference, Jessica. It is definitely considered to be a risk factor. It doesn't mean that you won't have. We have plenty of women who do have hypothyroidism.
Or Graves' disease if you have that.
And they produce enough milk, but we know it is something that will ring a little alarm bell for us and think, okay, maybe we need to just put a more belt and braces plan in place here for this person. So
you have to do loads of skin to skin. You've got to give yourself 110% chance of making milk. And the more you do in the early days, that first hour with that first feed, that makes everybody on their back foot. So if you haven't got any problems, you've got a chance of not getting enough milk. But if you have got other things going on, it even increases that risk even more. So it's really important that you maximise the stimulation in the early part of your journey, so that you really kickstart everything and have that huge hormone surge. That will make a difference, but it's because it's endocrine with the thyroid, and prolactin stimulation and prolactin production is all part of the endocrine system, and so they're sort of all tied together. And I know there's quite a lot of links with fertility and all of those things if you have thyroid problems as well, particularly if it's uncontrolled. So it is all linked together with fertility and lactation and things. So yes, there is a smaller risk that you might not make as much milk. So you've got to maximise the opportunity to make as much as you can. Many women do though.
Yeah, absolutely. Saru has said, happy Christmas to you both. You've been very helpful and reassuring. I'm 35 weeks pregnant and was wondering if I need to put feeding bottles and a breast pump for my hospital bag. Thanks. No, you don't need to do anything like that. We have everything here that you need. We have the syringes that we talk about nearly every week, the 1 ml syringes. Naomi's got one ready. We have pumps that are available on the ward. We have the pump kits that you need, the bottles, and we have, most instances, we have donated breast milk. If you are intending to exclusively breastfeed your baby and need a bit more milk than you're managing to get at that point in time. And we do have formula milk for those mothers that choose to formula feed if need be. So we have everything you need. You just bring yourselves. That'll be all you need.
Think positive that you won't need anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we have got pumps and things, so absolutely not. You know, bring minimal amount in with you, just enough for a couple of days really.
I remember from my NCT group, I think we were all going to turn up with buckets and balls and radios and, oh my word, and most of it never gets used.
And in our day, they had ghetto blasters, so people
no,
come in with a ghetto blaster on their
seriously,
shoulder.
our music system was like this, huge. Come in.
Yeah.
Right, completely mad. They're going to be going, what are we talking about?
Exactly.
Anyway, so Charlotte's box on here. It's lovely. I can't believe Alicia will be due in May. Oh no, neither can we. So right. Oh, I've missed one. Jessica said, can we rent breast pumps? I'm due 3rd of April. We don't actually have pumps to rent, Jessica. The situation here is we have a few pumps as an infant feeding team, but not many, and that's partly because unfortunately when we've lent them out, we don't charge money, but when we've lent them out they don't come back, so we really struggle, so we can't keep buying them. The community teams each have a few pumps which they lend out as and when people, it's normally a week. But these days, with most people having access to overnight deliveries, we find that if we can if we earmark that someone's going to need a pump, then actually they can have it when they're going home the next day. So we don't often find ourselves scrabbling around looking for a pump for someone. There are pump rental organisations though. You can rent from Medela, you can rent from Ardo, and the Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support Group also have pumps that they rent out. So there are places that you can rent pumps from. The small pumps, domestic pumps that are made by the hospital grade manufacturers, these are the Ardo, Amida and Medela pumps. They all make a domestic version for between £100 and £200. And actually once you rent a pump from someone like Medela for any length of time, you could have bought a pump for that length of time. So there are pros and cons depending on what you're doing. And the mothers who have a baby on the special care baby, have access to some Medela pumps as well. So there's different ways of getting them. Sometimes we'll encourage a mum to phone a friend or to put out on their WhatsApp group for their antenatal group, if anybody's got a pump they're no longer using. And often family and friends will have a pump that they could borrow in an emergency before they buy their own.
We don't always suggest that you share Medela pumps with anyone else, because they don't have a valve on them that, like some of the other pumps, to stop milk from flowing backwards. So sometimes the milk can get into the tubing and get into the equipment, and you can't clean it really very well. So if you're buying one on eBay, for instance, and it's been used, the chances are it will have some milk contamination on it from the person that you've got it from, unless it's still in the box and unused. So
the new ones are different though.
Yeah.
The new ones have got a valve on the back of the pump kit, which has changed. So,
but the older ones
don't.
They don't, and so there is a risk that you have contamination from other.
Have we got a Medela pump?
Kit. We might have a kit in the other three.
We've got a Medela one.
But no, we haven't. We've taken it out.
Say if we had an old Medela kit, we could show you the ones not to get. We did have one a couple
of weeks ago, didn't we? And we've taken it away.
We're tidying up. That's normally me. I'm the one who gets into trouble for tidying up. So that was the answer about the pump. So from the point of view that there are lots of ways of getting a pump, and usually we get an inkling that you're going to need a pump, and if it's like if it's the Thursday and you're going to go home on the Friday, you've got time to order one before you get home.
I think the other thing to say is that when you buy any of these pumps, the standard funnel size on them is a 24mm, and many women have got and this is, I think this one's a 30, isn't it? Oh, these aren't glasses. I was trying to put my reindeer on my eyes.
Amida are always bigger. That's 30.5. But the standard Medela one is 24.
24.
It's too small for most women.
And so if you get one from them, they will only have a 24 in often, and it might be that when you're in hospital you had a 30 millimetre funnel, which means that the 24 might be too tight for you. And it's really, really important when you have a pump, probably more than anything else, that it fits properly, because if it doesn't, the flow of milk is altered. So if it's too tight, you might find that the milk flow doesn't come as easily, and or you get sore cracked areas on your nipple, and that's not great. So we don't want you to
pass it over, we'll show where to look. So on the Medela and the Ardo ones, it's normally written here on the side, on that bit there. So on Ardo and Amida, and Medela, it's normally written on this bit. But what we're talking about is this size here. So it's the middle bit where you can see. Oh, we'll call it.
Oh, here's one.
There you go. You got one. Oh, brilliant. So there you go. So this is a.
Looks like a 24, that one. Oh no, it's not. It's bigger, isn't it?
No, this is 28.
Yeah.
So this is a Medela, and it fits into the pump kit. But we're talking about the hole here, and if it's written on the edge on the Medela kit, it's written over here, whereas it's written on the side on an Amida or an Ardo. So pay attention to what size it is, because it needs to be the right size for you. What you don't want, as Naomi's already mentioned, you don't want to have any friction. So your nipple needs to move freely in here. It's going to go in and out, and it needs to move freely. The areola should be up against the edge here, and not be and not just have the nipple going in and out. You need a little bit of areola going in. So it's well worth getting the right flange size.
It is. It's really important. And if you've used a pump in the hospital, take the bits home with you that you use, because we throw them out when you go. So all the bits of bottles and all the other stuff that you have in your room, take them with you, because we do throw everything. We can't use them again. So if the funnels you might be able to use on your pump kit at home, you can change them over. If you don't, and you haven't used a pump in hospital, then you can order funnel sizes when you order your pump, so that you get the right size funnels when you get your pump, so that you are not using a smaller one. It's really important. Now, if you buy one of the cheaper ones that you can get on the internet sites, one of them is the made in China Bella Baby, which has thousands and thousands and thousands of reviews on these sites, and they're fantastic, but they only do a 24 millimeter funnel. So if you've got a breast that is a 30 or bigger nipple, or a 28 more, you are going to struggle to use that pump. So yes, they're great value, and they're absolutely fantastic little pack horses if you've got breasts that fit the funnels, and many women have, and it's fine. But if you buy it and the funnels don't fit, you can't get bigger funnels for them. Some people that are very clever can fiddle with other kits. And so if you have an Amida kit or whatever from the hospital, you might be able to change it over if you've got a very good DIY tendency to, but not everyone can do that. So it doesn't always work. So it's false sense of economy if you buy that pump and it's no good for you. So have a good think about what will suit you before you buy. And as I say, most things get delivered. And if you want to get a big hospital grade one, so there's the ones that we have in the hospital, the ones that if you've been here, the big computerized ones that we've got, they are about £2,000. So they're really expensive pumps, but they're hospital grade, and they're used a lot. They go through a lot of people, and they have to be really sturdy. You can hire those, and it's about £50 a month for one of those. But if you hire it before 3 o'clock on one day, you can get it the next day delivered. So it literally will come the next day. So if you want one, order it first thing in the morning, and it'll arrive the next day. If you're going home. So if you want that sort of pump at home, you can hire them as well. So there's all sorts of different things available.
Yeah, there's plenty
to
of options.
suit your needs.
Yeah.
And some people just use their hand pumps and get on very well with a hand pump. But they're quite expensive still, aren't they? They're about £25, aren't they still? So
I think just to say, the Hacker, which I'm sure many of you've seen, is not a pump.
It's a silicone bulb thing that we squeeze.
Yeah, so that isn't a pump as such. That is a breast reliever. I mean, they do a great job of sort of encouraging breast sort of dripping and leaking, but they're not a pump. When you're using a pump, it's got positive pressure and a cycle going, and it really encourages good milk flow. Whereas the Hacker encourages you to leak that sort of waterier first part of the feed, which is fabulous. It's full of water-soluble vitamins and all the sugar your baby needs for brain development, but it hasn't got the fat in it that if you were pumping or your baby was feeding, you would get as a whole milk removal. So when we think about the Hacker, it's good to encourage leakage, but it isn't a pump as such, no matter what they call it. So.
And also, if you do put it on one side while you're feeding on the other, remember if you get 60 mils in your Hacker, which some mothers do get lots, or 20 mils, then you put your baby onto that side, they've lost that milk.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit odd that you take that milk out and give it to your baby in a bottle or however, and then breastfeed on that side and they haven't got enough. So always think that actually the best place to get milk out of is the breasts, and then if you are short in supply or whatever, then you'd pump. But remember, if you usually feed on both sides and you're having to top your baby up afterwards and you're using a Hacker, try and leave it in your breast, because your baby's going to get that milk from the breast itself, and it will get a really good feed then. So just be careful, particularly if you've got weight, your baby's not gaining a lot of weight and you're using the Hacker on one of your breasts while you're feeding on the other. It can impact your supply.
Okay, hopefully that's answered that one. Jade has asked, how much will a baby need of Clostrum in the first 24 hours? Not an awful lot. So
you say 3 feeds in the first 24 hours.
3 feeds minimum.
Lots of babies come out and feed a lot more than that.
Yeah, and
that's also normal.
And as long as it's the 3 feeds applies to a baby that is healthy and term. So nice weight, good condition, no risk factors. If a baby is born and we're worried about that baby, then 3 feeds is not going to be enough, and we're going to be encouraging that baby to feed a minimum of 3 hourly. So that means when you get to 3 hours, you're going to be encouraging the baby to feed, and at the next 3 hours, if it hasn't fed already, you're going to encourage it to feed. We don't mind if they feed more frequently, but we don't want them to go more than 3 hours.
So it would be rude for me not to use tummy sizes because I just have to all the time from my little magic bag of tummy sizes. But that's your baby's tummy size in the early days. So in the first day or two, that's what your baby's tummy size is. And so it doesn't need to be filled, but we get you to collect syringe milk in your colostrum in the syringes like this if you're hand expressing because your baby's too sleepy and you're not able to latch your baby on for any reason. And you might find if you've had an epidural or you've had a cesarean or you've had opiate injections, so you might have had Oromorph or you might have had a dimorphine injection, your baby will get some of that through, and that will be residual for a little while after you've had your baby, depending on when it was given and how many doses you had in your labour. But that will impact your baby's ability to wake up and feed as frequently sometimes in the first sort of 24 to 36 hours. Certainly they start to wake up after that a little bit more, but sometimes they just don't play out the normal behaviour. So it can affect your baby's ability to wake up and feed effectively. So that's where this is so important when you hand express, that you get it right and your skills are right, but also, it's only a tiny little knot. So if you can see that, it's so small, it's so tiny, and that's what you might get out, or just even less than that. And what you can do is, I bumped into a dad on the ward yesterday and he was talking about the syringe, and he says, do I need syringes? And I said, well, you can fill one syringe up and then that's okay for a day and then for 24 hours. But the best place is for in your baby, but you can keep collecting it in one syringe. You don't need to use each hand express a new syringe for each one unless it's more than 24 hours since you used it. So this is okay to use and put more into and add to it in between your baby's feeds. But the best thing is to give it to your baby and put it in your baby's mouth, and then you can wash these again on the ward with soapy water. But mostly you get tiny little amounts like that, and then as your breasts get more mature, as the days go on, then you start to get more volume. Now sometimes you'll get much more than that out. You might get a whole syringe full out. That's also normal, but that is more normal, to have that tiny little volume. And you put little tiny bits in your baby's mouth, and it sort of coats the mucous membranes, and the baby swallows it very slowly, and that's why we say it's okay, but you shouldn't be giving milk to your baby in a syringe, because they're not suckling, and they may aspirate that milk if it's sort of very fluid in their mouths, whereas the colostrum is like golden syrup. It's really thick and gloopy and sticky, and so you can just put those tiny little bits in your baby's mouth and they will swallow it. Now that's like having a tablespoon of colostrum.
Yeah.
Yes, colostrum.
Golden syrup.
Absolutely.
Most likely it's golden syrup.
It's packed with absolutely loads of goodness and calories. But the other thing they do is when they've got a layer of fat on them, they burn fat when they don't get the calories. So their brain is fed whatever happens in the first few days. And so if they get little bits of colostrum and in between they don't get that, then they burn fat. And as long as you're just doing that in the first couple of days, your baby's fine. The volumes of colostrum should go up, but your baby in between will get protected with what we call counter-regulation, and it burns fat, so it has what we call ketogenesis, which feeds their brain. And once the milks come in, that switches off, and then they need to be fed much more regularly. So by day 1 they should be having about 4 or 5 feeds a day, and by day 2 they should be on 8 feeds a day, and then they should continue to feed at least 8 times in 24 hours. 8 to 12 is normal for most babies, 8 to 13, something like that, once you've got to 48 hours post-delivery. So the volumes go up very, very slowly in the first days, and then once you've had your baby, then the volumes go up more. So it's really important that you recognise that your baby will need some food in the first 24 hours, but not huge amounts, and that's why we don't say that you give lots and you go back to those lovely little tummy sizes that we've got. You don't need to fill it. It's absolutely tiny. You don't need to fill that. But your baby will have bits of muck in its tummy from the birth, so it will almost be full of mucus and gunk from the delivery, and from swallowing stuff, amniotic fluid and things. So babies are often very mucousy in the first 12 hours, 24 hours after they've delivered, and once they've got rid of all of that and they've done lots of meconium poos, then the tummy starts to want to receive more food. And the colostrum is a laxative, so the more they get in the first day, the more they poo, the more they're ready to feed, but also the less likely they are to be jaundiced. In fact,
protection.
If that meconium doesn't sit in their gut for a long time when they're born, then they they're much less jaundiced. So you want to move things out, clear things out, and that's what the colostrum does. It's a laxative. That was a long answer to your question. I hope we answered
that
the
was
point.
How much colostrum do you need in the first 24 hours? Now we're going from one extreme to the other. We're going from a newborn baby of the first 24 hours to Jenny, who's writing about her 5-week-old baby. So we've got a much bigger one now. She started to get a bit more fussy when she feeds, before, during and after. She's exclusively breastfed and we were doing really great, but the past 2 days have been a bit more challenging. Please tell me that this is a developmental leap rather than her new personality, with a great big laughing face. I'm sure it's not her new personality.
It was just waiting to come out.
Yeah, no.
It's always been there.
No, it's just a bit more challenging. I think just watch your position. I know he says it every time, but just make sure that you've got good positioning and attachment. Remember to make sure she's getting a really good mouthful. I know that's a small baby, but it's still relevant.
And her shape might change. Her mouth changes shape slightly. You might need to adjust your positioning as she's got bigger. Quite often babies are, the way that you hold them is slightly different because they're slightly different length. So you've got to sort of move them into the right place. So just make sure that you line her up in the right place still, that the rules still stay the same, but you line her up and you put her on really deeply. And it could be that she's, her mouth's got a bit bigger. She might be having a bit more of a shallow latch, and that might be that she's getting slightly more what we call lactose-lactase imbalance, where she's more frequently feeding and getting more of the lactose-rich milk, which is full of sugar, and they do really well, and they get loads of weight on them, but they feel quite unhappy, and they've got an unsettled tummy quite often because it's quite gassy. The lactase can't break it all down in one go, so it's sort of struggles and a build-up of gas in their tummy, and that causes lots of problems sometimes for babies if they're not quite on far enough and they're not getting quite the right mix. So it might be that she needs to get on a bit deeper to get the fat from
make sure
the end of the feed.
You're allowing for her to have grown. So you're still bringing her around. I think we talked about it last week. Your baby is still starting nose to nipple. You're still starting nose to nipple. And what happens is we tend to find that we have small babies here, and then the big baby gets put here. But actually we want small baby here, big baby goes here. So the head's still here, same place. So just have a look and see if that might be part of it. And babies do become more aware. They become more and more aware of their surroundings. You know, they start being aware that, you know, there's other things happening other than you and them, and so they're easily distracted. So that might be a bit part of it as well, you know. And the fact that you've had the best part of 5 weeks with really good breastfeeding is fabulous. This is just a little blip, and I'm sure it's not her personality. So I'm sure it'll get much better again. So keep going, Jenny.
And it might be that your milk supply's gone up a little bit, so you know, she's getting a faster flow or something. And the letdown is a bit faster than she had, and you might not be feeling that because not everybody does feel a letdown, but it might be that you know, the milk flow is faster for her, or it's changed slightly, and that's why she's fussing a bit. So revisit it, you know, perhaps go to one of the you know, voluntary breastfeeding drop-ins that you can go. They are appointment only, they're not drop-in now.
And they're closed over Christmas, I'm afraid.
They're closed until the 4th of January, I think. So you know, just work on your attachment while you've got everyone running around looking after you over Christmas, if you have, and if you haven't, then make sure you're not doing too much so you can pay attention when you've got other people in the house, so you can just practice the feeding and do a little bit more of that, because that might make a difference.
All right, hope that helps. Jade has finished off her, she was asking about how much Clostrum. She's just gone, because I've been harvesting, so I don't want to bring in too much, like you say. Absolutely, and we don't want you to bring in too much because we don't want you to waste it. And the other thing to mention is to remember that you only influence your milk supply after the baby is born. So you can be expressing and having loads of Clostrum beforehand. If you don't do anything after the baby's born, then actually you're not going to have milk supply.
Don't be complacent.
So even if you've got Clostrum that you've expressed beforehand, that's your buffer, that's your bonus. Once the baby's born, you want to be doing loads and loads of breastfeeding, and if there are any issues with breastfeeding, you want to be hand expressing as well. So we don't want you to be sitting on your laurels going, wonderful, I've got loads of Clostrum because I did it before. You will end up without a milk supply, which is heartbreaking. And I know I've mentioned it before, but you know, don't sit back and think I don't need to do it. You do need to do it, otherwise you won't have a supply. So that was for that one. Rose has said, my 4-month-old baby, after sleeping for several weeks through until 4 or 5 a.m. or later on a good night, has all of a sudden started to wake twice in the night. I thought it might be teething, but she doesn't seem to be crying as if she's in pain. However, when I feed her, she settles straight away. Do you think the milk isn't satisfying her enough? As she is getting a generally hungry baby that likes her food, or could it be teething, sleep regression? It has gone on for 2 weeks now. Any advice would be much appreciated. Happy Christmas to you both.
Happy Christmas to you too. It might be that she's having a bit of a growth spurt, and that she's just upping the milk production, so it's not increasing the volume, but it's increasing the composition of the milk and changing to what her needs are. And so it might be just that she's, you know, stepping up a little bit, that she just needs a little bit more, and she's regulating that, and she may well settle down again. They do get in a bit of a habit of it once they start waking up as well, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. She will probably, you know, she's more aware, as Alex talked about a minute ago, you know, they're more aware that that you're not in their world all the time if they're asleep and you're putting them down, and they've suddenly you know, woken up and decided they want to be close to you and want that reassurance. So if she settles quickly afterwards, then that's great, you know, feed her and put her down. But it sounds perfectly normal. I don't think anything's regression or anything's going wrong. I think, you know, she's just stepping up production, and that is her needs at this time, and she will go back to it if she's done it. You know, babies do sleep through the night and then stop sleeping through the night, and you know, she's self-regulating, and that's brilliant. Yeah,
and it's very, very common to not be doing long periods of sleep at this age, and you know, babies, we often hear of babies that sort of 4, 5 and coming up 6 months needing, you know, an extra feed here and there. You can always try and offer her another one in the day and see if that helps, and see what goes on there. You know, so she'll
as long
accept
as she's
it.
Gaining weight and she's peeing and pooing normally, and she's
meeting
well.
Milestones.
You know, she might have had a bit of a snuffle and just wanted the reassurance from you. is everyone well in the house? You know, if you've got toddlers that are coughing and spluttering on babies, then they often get bits of, you know, snotty noses and things like that, and she might got a bit of an earache or something, and that wakes them up. Could be a number of things, but if everything else is all right, I wouldn't worry about it. I know it's you like your sleep, but actually we still know that breastfed mums get more sleep than bottle-fed mums. So you know, overall you do get more sleep. So it is all normal.
Yeah, very much so. Charlotte said, me and my partner are thinking of having another baby, but we aren't sure whether to after having what we went through this year. Well, we'll all keep our fingers crossed, Charlotte, that it'll go well this time.
New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's a new start. Laurie Betty has said, Dear Alex and Naomi, thank you so much for these sessions. In the past year, you've been my rock with your encouragement and knowledge that you kindly share. As a new mum, I have had a lot of worries. And we're delighted to be here to support you, Laurie Betty. And it's lovely when we have our regulars coming back too. And some of the newer ones will become our regulars, which is nice as well.
And you're the ones that keep us coming, because we love the questions, and we know that it does make a difference, you know, that you can have instant access to answers, which is really good, isn't it? And that it's the best research-based answers, because Dr. Google is always a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
You don't know who's written the answers on a lot of them, so you've got to be very careful when you look for things that you've got the right research-based information.
We do our best, and we're both, you know, been in the feeding world for a long time, so got quite a lot of experience.
We know how hard it is at home.
Oh, definitely.
And how hard it's been in COVID. It's been really hard for everybody.
It is quite something. We were saying earlier, it's quite something to meet many of you mums, who many of you are now going on and having second babies, and it's the second baby during the COVID times, and many didn't, you know, have their babies
scary, isn't it?
in the first part of COVID, and no care, no, you know,
didn't meet anybody, didn't meet any other mums, or you've not been to toddler groups, you know, you've not had the close contact that most women have, and I certainly did, and Alex certainly did, you know, that we met other mums in toddler groups and had tea and cake and went for walks with other mums with prams, you know, it was the thing that kept us going. And it's been unfortunate.
And it might have been that in that occasions that you would have asked, some of you would have asked some of the questions that we get now, but that's brilliant if we can, you know, we can stop a gap there and fill it. So that's really brilliant.
For quite some time, nearly 2 years, really. Quite amazing.
Jessica said, thank you so much. I was thinking of the MAM dual breast pump, or would you recommend a singular? Actually, if you're going to buy a pump, buy a double. The one thing breasts do together is let down. Other than that, they work totally and utterly independently. Oxytocin is the hormone that causes your uterus to contract for your contractions, but it does exactly the same in the breast. So the breast is made up of a whole load of lobes with lots of little florets. I always think of it as a piece of broccoli. So the stem is the nipple, and then all the branches go back, and then you have all the florets of the broccoli. So the florets are where the milk is made, and then it goes down the tubes, the lobes, the ducts to the nipple. What happens is that oxytocin works on those florets around the outside of them, constricts them, and sends the milk down for milk removal. So it does it on both breasts at the same time. So if you use a double pump, you get a bit more milk for a bit less time. So actually, it is there. If you can afford the double pump, I'd go for it. So always.
It takes half the time.
Yeah.
So you know, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but you spend much less time doing it.
Yeah.
If you double pump, and you know, your stimulation is double, so you have much more of a surge of hormones.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth it.
If you can push it, you know, if you can meet the cost of the double, go for it. They are good. Laurie Betty's come back. My baby's 1 year and 1 week old, breastfeeding on demand still. I've been guided by food under one is just for fun. We love it. However, we'll have to get royalty rights for Hannah for that one, because that's a Hannah Torrance, my job share, who's on maternity leave at the moment. However, now after the first year, my baby's still preferring breastfeeding. She eats what we eat when she wants and how much she wants, but not consistently. Should I be worried? No, not at all. Your milk's still great provision for her, and she'll pick her appetite up as and when she needs it. I can remember exclaiming about my middle child, who lived on practically no food at all. I don't know how she survived. And my mother, who worked with children with special needs under school age, she said, children of that age live on fresh air and bad temper, and that was a very good description of my daughter. They don't need huge amounts of food. They need enough to grow appropriately. So let her tell you, and be brilliant.
As long as she reaches her milestones, you're doing okay.
Absolutely.
You know, she gets a good variety so that she can get good iron levels and things like that. Then that's the important things.
Yeah. Heba has written, any ideas for tummy time for a 5-week-old? Also, is it better not to do it straight after a feed? I think I would probably avoid straight after a feed, because you always run the risk it's going to come straight back up again, don't you?
Don't turn them upside down.
No.
And I think sometimes if you do laid back feeding, so if you do the biological nurturing feeding where they're sitting up, sometimes
you can borrow a doll.
We
remembered a doll this week.
We did a teddy bear last week, didn't we? So you hold them sort of around their tummy. You don't hold them under their arms, because that puts their arms in front of you, but you can sit with your baby in front of you and let them bob and attach once you're feeling confident, because their heads are a bit wobbly when you do this, and then you can bring your arm around and hold them. And actually that's a bit of tummy time with feeding as well, that they have that opportunity, and that's quite nice. You can lean back a little bit like that, and they have a bit of tummy time doing that if they're littler. It's a win-win with that position,
Tummy time and skin to skin on mummy.
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
Nice.
It's a nice thing to do. So that is sort of a tummy time as well. But maybe if they have a little bath or something, you can let them have a little kick in the warm bathroom on their tummy if they're having a little bath.
You mean after the bath?
After the bath,
yeah.
Not in the water.
Not in the water.
Not in the water. Take some front crawl, but
not yet.
But when it's nice and warm, you can do a little bit of baby massage with some oil or something, and let them have a bit of a tummy time when you do that, and that's nice for them too if they're nice and warm.
See how you get on with all of that, Heba. Jenny's put a question up. Is it possible to increase milk at 5 months when combined feeding and breast milk from pumping? I'm trying everything I can think of. Just hired a Medela as last ditch attempt, only getting 8 ounces a day. So, I mean, we do talk a lot about pumping. We talk about the fact that we want you to be guided by the flow and not the clock. So, double pumping, obviously you've got a Medela, you should be able to double pump then. So, starting with a bit of massage, being in a nice room, being somewhere you're not going to get anyone walking in on you, that's all helping keeping oxytocin going. Have your baby nearby, have a picture of your baby nearby, think about your baby, give them a kiss, smell their heads. That will any of that will make a difference and get oxytocin flowing. Then holding the kits between your fingers like that rather than like this. And that allows you to. I've got a breast. Did we bring a breast this week? We're not doing very well, are we? Okay, so it's imagining holding it on the breast, and then you can use your finger and thumb above the breast. Yes, so above the breast, and that allows you to be tactile, and you can do compressions. So in and hold, and release. In and hold, and release. So you do that on both breasts. You could cut up an old bra and put the pump kits through and massage and compress at the same time. We use a piece of tubey grip like this, and we literally feed it through.
And you put little holes in there, and you can put the funnels through them.
Yeah. The idea of that isn't that you can eat your dinner. No, eat your dinner or drink your tea. The idea is you do get your hands on the breast when you're doing that. It isn't so you can be totally hands free.
Look at your phone.
Yeah. Or it's one of the pictures we had from a calendar of a woman on a typewriter. So she had the pump kits going, and she was on a typewriter, which was quite amusing. Anyway, dates it obviously. So thinking about those sort of things will help. Watching the flow, watching it coming while the milk is coming. Pump when it begins to slow or stop. And some people never stop entirely. Some people have a drip and then a long pause, then drip. If you're the sort of person who's long gaps and it never seems to stop, go with the slowing. When it begins to slow, turn the pump off for 30 seconds. Set it going again. And you'll get another bit more because you'll get another let down. Go through until it's tailing off again. Another 30-second break. Start up again. And this is how you can really push the breasts and ask for a bit more milk. we tend to say the first 2 weeks is when you see the biggest increase in milk. I'm not going to say you won't see an increase in milk. It's very feasible that you could see an increase in milk. And we have had mothers who we've struggled with to get their milk supplies up. And I can think of one particular mother who in the end actually donated to the milk bank. So everyone is different, and yes, there is always a chance, Jenny, that you could increase your milk supply further. But that optimal pumping, where you'll really get yourself in the right hormonal place, pump while you see milk coming, pause for 30 seconds, pump again, pause for 30 seconds, pump again. That really helps increase and push your milk supply, because you're maximising what you're doing, and you're mimicking what a baby does at the breast with a pause and feed. So,
I mean, one of the other things to do is just look at your contraception if you're on a pill or anything. If you're on this progesterone only pill, or you've had a coil put in, that should be okay, but it can affect your milk production.
Anecdotally, we hear,
yeah. So, or if you're suddenly ovulating or having periods, sometimes that changes your supply a little bit, and then it builds back up again. But there's lots of different things that could be happening with it. And they reduce the feeds as well a little bit, don't they, at that age? So, you just might need to step up the number of stimulations you do. That will help.
Good luck, Jenny. I hope it goes well for you.
Yeah,
it's
that
really
age
hard
to
work.
pump.
Yeah.
Well done.
And just remember, I know you've put how much you're getting, just to say any bit of breast milk is beneficial. So your milk here that you're getting for your baby, it's still worth doing. It's brilliant. Helen has said, hello, if you want to introduce a bottle feed so partner can get involved, is it best to leave this until supply is established? Yeah. Give yourself a good couple of weeks before you do it.
Yeah.
Really get that milk supply going. Make sure your baby knows what they're doing.
We know that when you give a baby a bottle, the flow is different, and that's the problem. It's not giving the bottle, and it's, the evidence for putting a teat in a baby's mouth is not there, that they can get confused with the teat, but they get flow confused. And so, if they're learning to feed from the breast, and the flow that comes out of the breast is fast initially and gets slower and slower and slower, and it gets less and less volume. And when they get a bottle, it's the same all the way through, so they get the same pace of flow through the bottle until the end of the feed. So if you give, some babies don't care what's in their mouth. They really don't care whether they have a bottle or a breast or anything else. They just take whatever you give them and they're happy. But other babies are very, very sensitive to flow, and if you introduce bottles and they're just learning to breastfeed, they can become flow confused very quickly, and then they can get very cross at the breast. So it's allowing them to establish how to breastfeed first is the most important thing, so that they know that that's the normal for feeding, and that they've established a good supply for you, and that you've got a good amount of milk, so when they do feed they get what they want from the breast, and they learn that. But some babies, you just give one bottle and they're really flow confused, and they really get cross at the breast once you've done it. So you don't know whose baby's going to do what till you've done it. Most babies are fine, but if you give more than one bottle every now and then, you'll find that your baby will possibly start to object and start pulling at the breast and getting cross, because the flow is different and they've got used to a fast flow all the way through the feed. So that's why we talk about that. That's the risk that it can impact the way that your baby feeds at the breast. But some are very sensitive, but mostly they're all right, aren't they?
They do a couple of weeks.
But I know that if it happened to you, you'd be devastated if you wanted to breastfeed.
That was for Helen. Jenny's come back and said thank you. Charlotte's asked, when are we both back in the new year?
We're not leaving.
Well,
we're all here.
Yeah, but we're not doing next week though. We've got a few sessions where we're not going to be around because actually we've both got annual leave to take coming up. So next week we're not here. We are here on the 6th, and we'll be having a week off after that, and then around for another few weeks. But we've got some annual leave coming up, which makes it more difficult to do these sessions. But we will keep you posted and ask OMVP to put them up. So around on the 6th. Min has said, happy Christmas, just sending big thanks for all your help. Still feeding baby Odin. He's not quite mastered effective feeding, so still supplementing at the breast and pumping. It's not easy, but completely worth it. Well done you. And definitely wouldn't still be here doing this without all your amazing help, advice and support. Well done you.
Hear.
That's brilliant news, Min. Well done.
It's all worthwhile, and it's all about how you're managing it, isn't it? And how you've managed to succeed and keep going, because I think you don't realise how much you want to breastfeed until you can't do it. And I think most people are ambivalent about it, and they say, well, I'll give it a go, if it works that's fine, and then they get down the line and they've done 2 weeks of feeding and pumping and sore nipples, and they think, actually, do you know what, I'm not going to give this up after I've worked so hard to get this far, and I really want to do it. And you know, most of you have problems, most of you struggle, and you know, you keep going.
Well, we don't see the ones who don't have problems. We only see the ones
so
who do.
we have a warped view, don't we? But I think most people do go through an early bit of learning, and you know, we know how hard it is for you and what works behind it. So you know, any amount of breastfeeding or any way that you do your breastfeeding is what you do, you know, and there aren't any rules in breastfeeding. You can do whatever you want to do, and you can do both, and you know, you can one or the other, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's what's right for you as a family, and you know, if it works for you, then it's absolutely amazing. Whatever you do.
Yeah, we just cherish anything you can do for your baby, and the love is the most important thing at the end of the day. So it's loving your babies, keeping them close. You know, being responding to them however you're feeding them.
Growing their brains.
That's what it's doing. It's growing their brains. You're bathing their bodies in oxytocin. Every time you cuddle your baby and love, you know, stroke them, talk to them, make eye contact with them, you're bathing their brains in oxytocin, and oxytocin is the brain fertilizer. So remember, you can't spoil your baby. You cannot love your baby too much. You cannot cuddle your baby too much. And if your baby is breastfed, you can't feed your baby too much. So isn't that nice to know? An excuse.
You know, if you do all of that, you have a happy baby and a happy toddler and a happy child and a happy adult. And you know, it's all about forming relationships and attachment. And you know, if you start off well and you do all of those things, no matter how you're feeding, your baby will be just fine. And you know, they're growing to really well-adjusted adults as well. So it's, you know, every day that you give your baby your cuddles is the right thing.
Naomi has come, and maybe say, just wanted to say thank you. A week or so ago, you suggested going to get my little one's latch checked after he started choking mid-feed. His latch is fine, but we discovered some new positions to feed in, which are much comfier on my shoulders, neck, etc. We went to OBS at Didcot Baby Monday. He still sputters a bit mid-feed, but I'm far less worried about it having it checked. Brilliant news. There are some great people out there offering fantastic support, and that would have been Lisa, and she's wonderful. Charlotte said, just a quick question, when should I change to a toddler bed, as Alicia sleeps through the night, but she moves a lot at night into different positions? Hopefully 2022 is going to be much better. One thing I've learned becoming a new mum is my confidence was sky high, then it took a downward spiral after having a miscarriage. Well, I think, we understand that tremendously. Moving on to a toddler bed's got to be when it's right for you. They can be little tinkers when you put them in a toddler bed, because they don't stay in the bed. It's like newfound freedom. Oh my word. I can remember thinking, if my daughter, and it's the same one, it's the middle one, thinking if my daughter went to sleep in her bedroom, that was a great thing, because invariably we had to hunt around the house looking for her, and we'd find her asleep under tables and things. It's when she went to sleep under a really narrow table, and we literally couldn't get to her. It was hilarious. I wish we'd taken a picture.
It's reassuring that we're all normal, isn't it?
Yeah, so funny. So good luck with that. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So Jessica said, amazing, thank you so much, super helpful, great, glad about that. Emily has said, hi ladies, any tips for introducing a bottle? Rosie is 4 months now. She had a few bottles a couple of weeks ago, but has refused them since. Oh, Emily, well,
use a cup.
Yeah, go on to a cup, don't do it yourself. And what are our normals? Not when she's hungry.
Let her hold it. You know, they're holding things at 4 months a bit, aren't they? So that she can hold on to it. You might want a sort of a feeder cup, as long as she can suck and swallow okay, you know, with food going in, get that coordination, and she's okay. You know, give her a little one of the trainer beaker things where they can regulate that themselves, and she might take it from that. You don't always have to give them a bottle or put it on a spoon and give it in a spoon, you know. Let her lap it, but don't panic, you know, just keep trying.
And don't make it a battleground. You know, if she's not having it, don't try again. Have a break, because otherwise it will become a big battleground. You know, it's much easier to just walk away from it for a day or two and then try again. And try different things. Or Emily, I feel for you, because this comes up quite often. It's really challenging, and we often have babies that haven't gone to the breast in the beginning. We've met them, we've got these babies to breastfeed, and then the mum goes, I'm going back to work now at 5 months, 6 months or whatever, and they won't take a bottle. You're like, right, okay.
I think, you know, perhaps go out so you're not party to any of it.
It's upsetting if the baby's upset.
Yeah, if you're not party to any of it, they can't see you or smell you. And your partner doesn't feel undermined by you watching, because you've been the primary feeder. You know, they're probably quite nervous about giving a bottle, but desperate to do it. But you know, let them get on with it and work it out themselves, and let them have a little chat.
Yeah.
And
good luck with it.
It'll probably work.
Bianca said, hi ladies, my baby boy is 6 days old today. I'm feeding going well, although I'm finding initial attachment quite painful. Could this be down to poorly latch or technique, or is this common in the early days? Do you have any tips to reduce soreness, positioning and attachment? So
this is our little booklet, isn't it, that we have. So line them up, and it's always much lower than you think. So just, you know, if you're not sure, bring your baby further round from the breast, from the nipple.
Shall I do it here?
Yeah.
So you do it and I'll do this.
So if you can see that your baby is much lower on the breast, so the nose is at the nipple, and literally it is at the nipple. You can't just sort of lift your breast up to make it at the nipple. You've got to line your baby up, so you bring your baby much further down than you think, so that they almost look like they're going to fall off. So bring them around, keep them into the contours of your body, and let their chin lead. So see, that chin is right underneath, and then when they lift their head back, so you've got to allow their head to be free, so you hold the back of their shoulders like Alex is doing there, and their head goes back, so they sniff the air, and when they do that, the mouth is in the right place then, can you see? But if they were to do that with the mouth at the nipple, when they bring their head back, it will be in the wrong place. And so the chin hits the breast, so you can see the chin is going towards the breast there.
It's there. Comes
And
in there.
they can then scoop the nipple over just skimming the gum ridge on the top gum ridge, and it slides across the roof of the mouth, so that it goes right to the back of the roof of the mouth, and they get a really big mouthful. There's another picture there that you might see a different baby, and that shows the really exaggerated.
And all that this mother's going to do is push from here. So she's going to push. So I had my hand there. She's going to push from there. Now I've kept my fingers splayed, because I'm showing that's not where you're pushing from. That's not it. You're pushing from that part of your hand.
Heel of your hand.
So you're making a hairdresser sink. You let your baby's head tip back into it. You line them up nose to nipple, and then when they open their mouth, you're going to push them in from there in that movement.
Yeah.
It's not this movement.
No head pushing. Now, if you do it that way, you're going to be nose diving, so your baby's nose is going to be close to the breast, and what you want them to do is, when they're on, is to look like that. So the nose is free, and you've got an asymmetrical latch. So if you look at that, it's not in the middle. Where do you look at breast?
There we go.
There we go. You know, you don't want to be doing that. That's not the way that you're looking at. You want to be asymmetrical, so that you've got more brown bit at the top, the areola at the top, and then chin is right down here, and the gum skims over the nipple there, and they scoop the breast into the mouth, and that means that they get more of the breast in their mouth and not the nipple and rubbing, which is what makes it sore. So there's always room for improvement in breastfeeding. Alex always says that. You can always make it better, even if it looks perfect.
Bianca, I'm going to say you are 6 days now. You're still under the community midwives. Ask for some help, because it might be that you've had a little bit of damage. It's initial attachment. If it then eases, that's a good sign. If it doesn't then ease, you're just going to get more and more sore to the point where you can't feed. And the implications of being sore are that you can't put your baby to the breast. Your baby's not actually milking the breast particularly well anyway, and it won't drive your milk supply. So I think your day 6, give the community team a ring and say, is there anyone available that can just come and watch me feed, please? Or maybe you need to go into the unit, depends where you're under, but you're still under them, you're still under community teams. And I know it's Christmas, but we all still work, so hopefully someone can watch you feed. And if you can get help now, it will make such a big difference. You know, it will mean you'll be one of these mummies coming on here saying it's a year down the line and I'm still feeding, which would be brilliant. So yeah, so well done for getting in touch.
Think of Strictly and think of September when they all start and they can't dance, and
Yeah.
think of the ones that have got to the final with no experience at all. You know, that's what you and your baby are
Yep.
doing. Your new dance
Learning.
partner's learning, and each day it gets better. But I think the most common thing is that you're not quite putting your baby on in the right place or quite deeply enough. You have to be quite firm actually when you put your baby onto the breast. You've got to really move them on quite firmly and hold them there. Don't let them walk to the breast and attach themselves, because they will take it into their mouth at the very end, and that will make you sore.
We both worked with a midwife who ran the infant feeding team and was the infant feeding lead here, and she would say, and whiz, and she meant it. She meant and whiz. So she would literally be there, and I'm terrible if you meet me ever and I'm helping you with feeding, I put my hand there and help you, and it's and whiz. It's a quick movement and it's firm. It's in, because you're like it. The baby is like
Keep
a baby bird, and that mouth is opening and it's going to close again, and you've got to get there quickly. So it's and in. So
as
and
they're
whiz.
opening their mouth, you should be moving, not waiting for the mouth to be open, because by the time they get to you, it's closed.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see the mouth starting to open, you're moving the baby to the breast. Don't wait for it to open before you do it.
And if it's not right, get your finger in, break the vacuum, take the baby off and start again.
Yeah.
Don't just put up with it. But you do need to give yourself that 10 seconds. So baby goes on and you go, oh, that's a bit toe curling. Count 10 slowly, and if it's not easing, take the baby off. If it's easing, you've probably done a really good job, and that's just residual from before, residual damage. So,
As it runs itself across the roof of the mouth and gets into the
baby
right
does
place.
that, doesn't it? Yeah. Right. So good luck with that. I hope that goes well, gets better. So, but get the help, Bianca. Jessica said, when do you recommend harvesting colostrum? Is there such a thing as too early? There is. Yeah, there is. Please don't start before 37 weeks. You might have a go at 36 just to have a quick, can I manage it? But 37 weeks onwards is when we would suggest that you collect. Don't start doing frequent hand expressing before 37 weeks. There's a very, very small risk of putting you into labour. We don't want premature babies. Babies do much better when they're born at term. So, 37 weeks onwards, please.
Talk to your midwife at 36-week appointment and get some of the lovely syringes that we show all the time, and then you'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Get her to show you how to do it.
Watch our video.
Watch our videos. We've got one on our website which is real time, so it's a mum that we've filmed on the ward here, and her milk is just transitioning, so it's probably about day 2, and just starting to come out much more, and she's got a baby close, and she's got a really good technique. Yeah. And so have a look and see how she does it, because it's quite hard to see hand expressing on videos, because it's often on knitted breasts or something like that, and it's quite hard to see it, so it's real time.
Yeah.
So and have a little look at that. She's
very dexterous, because she's able to do collecting as well. Many women find they can't collect to begin with. They find it really difficult to do the hand expressing and the collecting. She does both. Don't be put off by it. Many women can't do that.
And also Global Health Media videos, they do some good videos, and there is one with hand expressing on there as well, and you can see those on their website, so Global Health Media Breastfeeding, and they're brilliant, aren't they, as well?
Yeah, really, really good. Right, so that was 37 weeks onwards. Emily has said, thank you, have a lovely Christmas. Thank you, Emily. Grace has said, thank you so much for your support earlier. We've successfully latched on both sides this afternoon. That's you.
Brilliant. That's music to my ears.
Yay. We were in clinic this morning, and Grace came to clinic. Charlotte said, one thing I had a problem with, Alicia did refuse milk in bottles months ago, so we tried different ways, and the only way we managed was through porridge and syringed it into her, as we didn't want her dehydrating. Cool, okay. Well, whereas possible, we try to use some cups and things like that. Bianca has come on. Okay, so helpful. Thanks, ladies. Right. Well, actually, we were going to talk about all sorts of things, and we've got to 15:40, Naomi.
Wow.
We're going to have a quick chat about having a tipple.
Yeah, alcohol and breastfeeding. I'm sure you're all desperate to have a glass of champagne on Christmas Day, aren't you?
And there's no reason why you couldn't. We would just probably recommend that you don't have lots. So,
Not the bottle.
No. Alcohol does go through breast milk. Whatever level it's sitting at in your blood, it's the same in your breast milk. So the ideal way of doing it would be feed your baby and then have a drink. It goes out of your breast milk exactly like it does with your blood. So as the levels drop, and it's a unit an hour in your blood, it's dropping out of your breast milk. So that's why we probably suggest that if you are going to have a drink, maybe have it just after you've fed. The odd drink here or there probably won't have hardly any impact. A lot of drink would have an impact, and it's we have heard that women who have drunk a lot, maybe gone out and celebrated a big birthday or something, have struggled then to let down their milk because it's inhibited their letdown reflex. So there are some issues with it, but the odd drink, a glass of bubbly to celebrate your new babies and to celebrate the hopefully the ending of this year and Christmas would not be a problem. But just be careful.
I think also it's very hard to wake up when you've had slightly too much to drink, so you'll struggle to look after a baby if you have had too much, and and wake up and feed your baby, and your baby will get some of that.
And it would be definite no-no to having a baby in bed with you if you've had any alcohol.
Absolutely
no.
Absolutely not. It's
They must be in their own beds.
Yeah. So enjoy it and have a glass, but space it out and sensibly.
Yeah,
really.
try and aim to do it.
It's
Have
not
a
that
feed.
You can't have anything at all, but just time it so that you've had a feed and then do it straight after.
We always heard tales of, and I remember being encouraged to do it, of having Guinnesses and Guinness and things like that, because it was thought to help with your milk supply. Can honestly say I'd much rather a glass of bubbly personally, but there you go.
We used to have it in the community, and so we'd have it on the bottom of the drug trolley, and they'd have a glass of stout at bedtime. Actually, when you look at the research, you need to have about a gallon of stout to make enough iron to improve your iron levels when you've had a baby.
Gallon, when you'd be very unwell, I think, by then.
So it wasn't a good idea, but we still gave it in those days.
It's not even very nice. Anyway, final comment on here is Charlotte will definitely be having bubbles on the 5th because that's her birthday, the 5th of January.
Lovely.
So, yeah. Right, well, thank you all for your questions. And you wanted to make one more comment about water, didn't you?
Yes, I did. We've had a couple of mums that have said that they were advised to give their babies water as well as their breastfeeding, and we're a bit alarmed to hear that. So if anybody does tell you that your baby needs extra water, it's not correct, and the food that you give in is complete in breast milk, and the majority of it is water. At least 80% of breast milk is water already, and with all the other extra nutrition in it, so your baby doesn't need anything other than breast milk. If you're making bottles of formula up correctly, your baby shouldn't need to have any other fluid other than the first milk that you give your baby, and the way that it's made up correctly. It's the same. So babies should not need any extra fluids at any time, even when it's really hot, because generally what happens is as your baby's thirst goes up, they feed more and they make more milk, and so as you drink more when you're thirsty, so does your baby. So if it's warm, you drink more, your baby will drink more if it's warm, but actually you don't need to give your baby anything other than breast milk at any time.
No.
Until you're exclusively breastfeeding. So that's the first 6 months. You shouldn't need to give your baby anything at all other than breast milk. So, if somebody says that to you, it's not correct. You shouldn't be giving your baby anything other than breast milk.
Right, well, I think we're going to call it a day there. Thank you very much to one and all. Lovely questions as always, and we will be back on the 6th.
We wish you a really
so save your questions up. If you are in dire need, there will be infant feeding cover over the Christmas period. I'm in tomorrow, you're in partly, you and Sarah in next week. So if you do have pressing questions, then do get in touch.
And leave a message if we're not answering the phone. Leave a message and we will get back to you.
Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Enjoy your babies. And the time that you've got without your babies if you haven't had them yet.
Yeah.
And it'll be your turn next year.
Yeah.
Bye from us.
Bye.
Bye.